child. But mix that with the insistence from Eddie's mom that her son become cultured and well-rounded. And it gave him a lot of that dog you get from coming up hard, along with a mindfulness that you don't always find in a warrior. While his dad was away, lodged in the grips of addiction, Eddie's mom pulled their son in a much different direction. She forced the man to participate in dance classes and theater. And like a lot of young boys would, Eddie hated every second of it. But as he got older, he would start to view those childhood performances kind of like an early apprenticeship, you know? He got so comfortable performing in front of a crowd that down the line he struggled with depression once the cheers went away. But that was down the line. As a kid, he relished that time when he was all alone and nobody was watching. It allowed him to dream about monstrous, bro. This is a ridiculous stat. 275 rushing yards on the damn ground per individual game in which he stepped on the field. That's an entire offense worth of production. Despite this, most of the colleges who recruited Eddie George recruited him not to keep running the damn rock. They recruited him to play linebacker. And while I see the vision, it's like, bro, you overlooking what's right in front of you. Because he was tall, you could say his running style is upright. But his momentum going forward was nothing to play with. They had seen Eric Dickerson already at this point, and they hadn't seen Derrick Henry yet, but he was coming too. With Eddie George, I couldn't find a reliable 40-yard dash time, but by no means was the man a speed demon. I saw one thing that said he ran a 4.6, which, based on seeing him play, that feels kinda accurate. But during his time at Fork Valley State, he won 2 state titles running hurdle races and track. Though I'm not exactly sure what the specific events were. Maybe the 300 hurdles, maybe the 100, I don't know. Ohio State was one of the few D1 schools that recruited Eddie George to stay at running back. The only problem was he wasn't the only one that promised that. And he was a freshman sitting behind 4 future draft picks. 4 NFL players, bro, sitting in front of you at a position where there's usually just one on the field. We all know that running backs love to get downhill, but how will you respond to an uphill battle? The NCAA tournament is starting to heat up with bigger stakes, bigger plays, and even bigger wins. So fill out your brackets with who you think will rise to the top and play backers. That was Simeon Rice and Kevin Hardy. They were so cold they went back to back in the 96 draft at picks 2 and 3. So the second overall pick and the third overall pick staring across at you on the same defense. Unsurprisingly, Illinois had the number 1 defense in college against the run. So if Eddie George was gonna get his revenge, I ain't gonna lie, bro, he picked a hell of a time to try to do it. Despite that, he got his lick back that day, big time. Dude rushed for 314 yards, despite sitting most of the fourth quarter because it was a damn blowout. And one thing you see about Eddie during this story, he had to hold a couple L's, but he always came back. He never sat on the L and just rolled over and died. He would get back up to his feet, man. He always fought back. And after his redemption against Illinois, the whole crowd chanted his name. Touchdown, Eddie was back. After all of that, dude was now ready to high step into his football destiny. That 1995 season put him in the history books, a neighborhood in which he still resides till this day. His 1,927-yard season would stand as the school record for the next 25 years. He ran 24 touchdowns and added a pass-catching element to his game as well for an extra 400-plus yards. And man, after all of that, all he had to do was remember that speech he practiced when he was 11. He flashed back to the mirror and once again gave his speech. But this time, he was holding the trophy for real. So he walks away with the trophy. Then shortly after that, at the airport, the trophy gets caught in the conveyor belt. He had to pull the hell out of it to get it out of there. And this is right after he got it. And it came out, but the finger snapped off. I guess no matter how big you get, no matter what goes, they didn't stop till they got to the Super Bowl. Touchdown, Eddie had 2 scores in a big game, but his team still fell just a couple inches short. It was a chance to put the ultimate stamp onto his career. And after that trip, bro, he'd never make it back. He skipped the Pro Bowl and started training immediately. Like I said, anytime he held the L, bro, he always fought back. The team that loses oftentimes has the Super Bowl hangover. But Eddie wasn't having it. He came back the next year on fire. George had his best season as a pro. He made his fourth Pro Bowl, made first team All-Pro, 1,500 yards on the ground, 14 rushing touchdowns. He also had 50 catches for 453 receiving yards. So yeah, man, dude was getting it done. The team was still good and finished 13-3 again, but they would need another miracle to get out of the first round. In the wild card round, Eddie had shook, so the play framed Eddie in a really bad light. When the play happened, it was 6 minutes left in the game. The Ravens was up by 1 touchdown. The Titans was driving and had made it to around midfield, and the last thing you can do is give up a defensive score. You got Trent Dilfer and them on the other side. I'd rather take my chances with them to get a defensive touchdown. Maybe without this, the Titans win the game. Maybe they don't. But if they do, this Super Bowl win never happens. But the talk going into the game, and then this play happening, and then Ray Lewis winning the Super Bowl, I feel like it took a massive